This episode of the Allie on the Run show is brought to you by Gatorade Endurance. Go to GatoradeEndurance.com and use code ONTHERUN20 to get 20% off your next order. Welcome to the Allie on the Run show. I'm your host, Allie Feller, and I'm really excited to kick off a 3-part series today, a series I'm calling Just Missed. These conversations are about dealing with disappointment, about setting big, awesome goals, and what happens when you don't quite get there. Whether you're working hard to make your first Olympic team, like you'll hear about today, or you want to break 6 hours in the marathon, these episodes will remind us all that progress is never linear, that everyone at every level deals with disappointment, and that it's not always the big wins or the losses that define us. It's the moments in between. That whole fall down 7 times, get up 8 theory, right? We are kicking things off with a woman I have admired for so long, Julia Lucas. Today, Julia Lucas is a writer and a run coach in New York City, but 9 years ago, life looked really different. In 2012, Julia was running professionally, hoping to qualify for the upcoming Olympic Games. She lined up at the start line at the U.S. Olympic track and field trials in her hometown of Eugene, Oregon. She was the hometown hero racing the 5K that day, and she wanted the win, though any spot in the top 3 would get her on that Olympic team. So Julia made her move early, and she held it for a while. But ultimately, it was the 4th place finish seen around the world. Julia missed being an Olympian by 1/100th of a second that day. On this episode, she recounts that day in Eugene and the emotions surrounding it, the buildup, the pressure, the expectations, and the aftermath. Julia is a beacon of sage wisdom, and I applaud and appreciate her willingness to take us all along on this journey. The highs, the lows, and that really gray space in between. What happens when you just miss out on your greatest goal and your biggest dream? Let's find out. Please welcome Julia Lucas to the Allie on the Run show. Julia, I am so looking forward to this conversation. I have wanted to have this conversation since the Allie on the Run show was born. So it only took 4 years to make it happen. I am thrilled to have you. Welcome to the Allie on the Run show.
You are good for the confidence. Thank you, Allie. I'm really honored and excited to be here.
Well, I can keep that coming. If you need a hype girl, I am available. You just let me know. I have been so inspired watching your career over the years and hearing your story, and we're going to talk all about it in the next hour. But before we dive in, we start with what I call the warm-up here on the show. That is where you get to tell everyone who you are, where you live, and what you do.
My name is Julia Lucas, and I live in Prospect Heights, Brooklyn. And right now, God, I have like a cobbled career. It's almost all of it is in words. I'm a writer.
I love it. And did you run today?
I have not yet run today, but right after this, I'm going to meet a friend who's just getting back into running after years off. So I get to flex the coaching muscle a little bit.
Oh, I love it. And tell us about that. Like, what's the vibe going to be with Coach Julia, unofficial Coach Julia, friend Julia? Is it tough love? Is it you've got this? Is it cheerleader vibes? What can that friend expect?
I really believe in letting the athlete guide the energy. So I will check in with her, and whatever her mood is, I'll kind of reflect that with a little bit of a positive slant. And so, yeah, it gets to be really intuitive. And after your first 100,000 coaching sessions, it gets to be something whereas if you can think about it as little as possible, but just really sort of respect where the athlete is, and what their goals are, it just comes.
The first time that I don't know that I even met you, but I think my first interaction with you was at this Nike workout at Citi Field. I don't even remember. There were so many events around shoe launches a couple years ago, and it was one of those. Mm-hmm. And Mr. Met was there, and we ran the stairs in the stadium. And as a participant, I was like, this woman was born to coach. Just the enthusiasm and the way that you commanded an entire stadium of people was just really awesome to watch. Does that come naturally to you?
Yeah, I think it really is. So we were in a stadium, and so to create enough energy to feel like we belong in a stadium felt like what was required in the day. And then everybody responded um, so like emotionally, just being there and taking up this space was something that they'd only seen on TV or been a passive participant um, in. And so just like I fed off your energy and you fed off my energy and just kept getting bigger. um, but yeah, it's all just feel. Anybody who's been in coaching or running long enough knows that you read and you study and you learn all the science, and then you kind of throw it away and trust your gut.
I love that. Well, that workout will forever be remembered by me as one of the great New York City experiences that you only get as a runner, right? Like there's just certain things that as a runner you get to experience differently as a New Yorker, and that forever will be one of mine. Like who gets to run the stadium stairs at the Mets stadium? People are listening and they're like, that's not what it's called, Allie. It's called Citi Field. But you know what? I don't do ball sports. I'm a runner. So it was a very cool day.
It's true. It's so true. I'm actually the woman I'm going to run with, Annie, is partners with Coffee, and a lot of people in New York City running community know Coffee. And when I go on runs with him, we go in abandoned buildings and in alleys that I would never go on. And I really appreciate running in that way too. Just go places you would never go.
Yes, and get lost and enjoy. The lost art of getting lost. We don't do that anymore because we have Google Maps on our phones in our hands, but there's something special about getting lost on the run.
It's really true. Throw it away. Throw it all away.
Throw it all away. So I want to spend this time getting to know Julia, the athlete, and I want to go back in time. Do you remember your first moment as a runner where you felt truly victorious?
Yes, and the feeling is really reoccurring. Okay, the moment was I was in high school and I was a freshman, so I was 14, and it was my first cross country season ever, and I had not been a jock at all. Like I was a nerdy, read all the time, not many friends, awkward kid, and went out for the cross country team to do something. And we were doing loops around a little neighborhood close to the school. And at a certain moment, pretty like far into the workout, it felt not like I was speeding up, but just like everyone else was sort of falling away. And I think about that a lot when I feel like my life isn't going anywhere, or when I feel like the work isn't paying off. It doesn't always necessarily feel like you're doing something superhuman. Just the obstacles and the competition just become less important, or it feel like, yeah, coming into your power doesn't always feel like you expect it to, just rather like an easing up around you. That's like a less dramatic, doesn't really go with victorious, but I think that's what my answer would be.
But I love that it wasn't, oh, the first time I broke the tape, or this win, or this time stepping up on the podium. I love that moment of feeling victorious or feeling free or exhilarated, or even getting that runner's high that we hear about, that it was during a workout.
Mm. Yeah. And I was like, wow, maybe could be good at this. It's almost embarrassing to admit that for the first time. Like, wow, this fits. This feels good.
I don't think that should feel embarrassing at all. And I often ask runners about that moment of, was there a moment when you said, maybe I could make a career out of this. Maybe I'm good at this. Maybe I could go pro. So it sounds like that was that moment for you.
It is. Yeah. And I guess not when you, I know a lot of people now who are creatives or academics and just had never considered themselves athletes, and then they find themselves like working so hard in the middle of a workout, like giving the run everything, and they'll be sort of torn about excitement and being like a little bit embarrassed at the vulnerability that comes with that kind of physical work. And it's fun to think back of myself experiencing that the first time. It's fun to work hard.
It's fun to work hard. I also love that you brought up vulnerability already, because I was hoping we would get there. You are someone who I feel like you've gotten pretty vulnerable with whatever you want to call it, fans, audiences, fellow athletes. You've been pretty vulnerable and open, and look, we're going to talk all about it, but I'd be curious to know if that's always been the case for you. That young Julia you just described, having that exhilarating moment on the run, was she vulnerable and willing to get vulnerable?
Yeah, I think that word comes up a lot, especially lately, and I wouldn't have thought myself lucky to be this way until recently. But I think honestly, I'm just not good at any other way. Like I'm not good at faking having my shit together when I don't, and I'm not good at acting happy or tough or whatever when I'm not. And so it's kind of all I got, you know.
And would you say that that's a strength?
It is. I think it's, so many personal characteristics are strengths once you kind of have a handle on them. Like vulnerability can turn to like just drowning in your own emotion, or just like self-pity, or being like, I don't know, like needy or tiresome, or like they can overflow if you kind of don't have full ownership of kind of all the like parts of your humanhood, But if you do, when you do sort of understand, like, here's how this can be powerful, and then here's how it can be like totally overbearing, and I only show like my closest people the moments when I don't really have control, because that for sure happens too. But yeah, now I do. If you asked me like 3 days ago, maybe I would have said no, but but I think the majority of the time I do. I like who I am, and I'm proud that I'm a little bit of like leaking all over the place.
I think that's the first time anyone on this show has used the phrase leaking all over the place, and I love it. That's where we're going.
Ask you to edit that out.
So you talked about that first victorious moment on the run. What about the first time running kind of broke your heart? Do you remember the first time you ever felt disappointed on the run?
When I think back to my early running years, and there's lots of ups and downs. I had a lot of injuries, so I wasn't an athlete at all until I started running, and I was just so weak and gawky and bony, and my form was just like wild, just like a windmill, just arms and legs everywhere. And I got, by the time, like through my career, I've had 7 stress fractures and pelvic floor reconstructive surgery, and like many cases of tendonitis and bursitis, and like everything went wrong, right? And that was only through the first half of my career, and then the second half, I like understood how strong I needed to be to support my own frame. So don't let that scare off any runners, I truly did everything wrong. Like I was so bullheaded. I did it all to myself. But and those carried their own disappointments. But looking back, I'm so impressed with my young self for how quickly I would like say, okay, I'm injured, but I'm getting in the pool and I'm going to come back faster and tougher and stronger than ever. And this is actually a good thing. I would just twist it so quickly. And so I'm definitely was sad in those moments, but I don't think I would even call them heartbreaks. The first heartbreak was after I graduated college, and I went pro, and my first pro group was in Mammoth Lakes, California. And I had dreamed of going there for the first from 14 to 22. And that's where Dina Castor was, and Mem Kopleski and Ryan Hall. They were all there. And it's at Mammoth Lakes, California, is a mountain town. It's at like 8,000 or 9,000 feet altitude. And I just pictured like desolate trails and a bunch of people training to be best in the world, and we'd push each other, and then we'd, go like hum Rocky to ourselves between sessions. And it was what I wanted to do. That's to me the ideal, is this sort of like monastic, stripped down, like unworldly, a goal detached from money or fame or anything like that. Just sort of like gets me going, is exciting, and also like impossible. Nothing is detached from the world as it stands. But yeah, that's that was the old ideal that made my my young heartburn. So that's what I wanted, and I got there, which is wild. Just seeing like your dream of the past decade come true, and the dream that like raised me. um, and it's a tourist town. It's also like lots of people train there and love it and have wonderful experiences. And I don't want to trash the place at all, but it wasn't what I thought it was going to be. It's like a global tourist ski destination, and I never spent time around real wealth, and I had never spent time disconnected from my dad's a builder, just like a blue collar feeling. He's a contractor, blue collar feeling community. It just like it wasn't home is the short of it. And I was like disappointed. You know, so many times you like start on a journey and then somewhere along the way you realize like this isn't where I wanted to go. This, like the beginning of this was right. And then somewhere I took a turn or didn't take a turn, and I ended up somewhere entirely different. And it caused like kind of a meltdown. Like, do I love running, and what in running do I love? And can I get back to what I love? And, but it resulted in kind of a year broken period. That was my first like real deep heartbreak of my life, running or otherwise.
Now, as a professional athlete, and for all of the professional athletes, when there are those moments of victory and disappointment, oftentimes if they happen at a race, there's an audience for those. And that can be awesome. Or in the latter case, that can be not what you want. And I would love to talk about the Olympic Trials 5K in 2012. When I say those words now, it's been 2021 minus 2012 is 9 years later. How does it feel to reflect back on that day 9 years later?
Like after that big disappointment with Mammoth Lakes and some fishing around, some searching around, I got to the new team, and the one that I ended up ultimately really succeeding and running my best times at the Oregon Track Club run by Coach Mark Rowland. And it was just like a perfect fit that just felt like home, felt like the home that I was sort of missing in other places, in a few other places. And Mark Rowland is this like hard ass Brit who was just kind of tough on me in ways that work, you know? And I did I ran 15:08 there, and the fastest that I'd run before was 35. So it's sort of the difference between like a national and a global, or like a national like contender and not, something like that. So when I got to Oregon, I got there when I'd been pro at that point for 4 years, and it just seemed like it wasn't going to work out for me. I had even though it wasn't a good fit in Mammoth. Terrence Mann's a brilliant coach, and he's coached many Olympians, and it seemed like I had just failed out of professional running. And then when Coach Rowland said, like, I'll take a chance on you, you're not really good enough for my team, but I'll take a chance on you, it fit in this way that was like magical. My number one training partners were Bridget Franick, who made the Olympic team in the steeplechase for USA, and then and Sally Kipyego, who was a silver medalist in the Olympics for Kenya and now is an American citizen. Woo! And it was just such like it's hard to find a team in running where it really after collegiate competition, where it really feels like my win is your win and my loss is your loss, and everyone is like absolutely empathetically running together, even when they're separate. And it just was that. It was so like soul feeding, and I just got faster. I remember running workouts where I would like sit down on the track and just be covered in sweat and look at the times and be like, what? I did not run that. This is not real. Or tucking in behind Sally, and just belonging there. And that just like wasn't a pace that was mine before. And suddenly I could do it. And so much of it was, so much of that was the just like happiness. You know, it can sound like a little woo-woo, but I've seen a lot of athletes alongside of me succeed and fail. And so much of it is just liking what you're doing and believing in what you're doing and working out with people you respect and love and who care about you and all that. So it was just like working. And so I ran 1508 there at Stanford, and was very newly on like a Olympic trials watch list, and I'd run the fastest time in the country, and got to the trials as this favorite, and I was the only hometown athlete. And I wasn't. Lauren Fleshman was also a hometown athlete in the race, but like wasn't looking at herself as a contender for the team. Was more just trying to make the final at that point in her career. So when I didn't make that team, when I was expected to, and had so much support from the town and from my team and from coaches and so many directions, and then I didn't make it. And I remember when I made my big move, just how the stadium like erupted, so much support, so much joy, and way more just volume than I'd ever experienced in my career, and how like joyous that was. And then fell apart at the end of the race, and the stadium was so quiet. I think conflicted, because for the people, like a joyous moment in Kim Connolly making the Olympic team happened in the exact same moment as I didn't make the team, and everybody sort of understanding like the monumental like happiness and sadness that just happens in sports. That's what, one person's loss is another's victory. And so the feelings are throughout those 22,000 people in the stands. The feelings are so much bigger than can fit in anybody's head. And, a special thing about running is it's so simple. It's easy to superimpose your own storylines and your own sort of, memories of past races onto the runners who are running there. And so there's so much connection that's easily available. It's like these big moments, and my big moment in particular, are like dispersed through 22,000 people. And so it's almost like it makes it not as bad because people are watching, at least in some moments, because I feel like cared for and not alone in this loss. And there's certainly, I've had moments in races where I was just embarrassed and wanted people to look away, but that wasn't one of them. Being like devastated in that bowl of the stadium felt communal, and I felt the worst thing I feel like to feel in a race is like silly out there, and like you're not doing something that matters, like when you feel like a fraud, which my athletes will talk about sometimes, and I've definitely felt like, what, I don't belong here with these people, and I didn't feel like that. So yeah, that's a long answer.
No, it's a beautiful answer, and I love thinking about the stadium being there not as 22,000 people who witnessed a fourth place finish that you wanted to be any of the three spots ahead of that, but that it was 22,000 people supporting you and feeling that for you. And, that's 22,000 times two shoulders to lean on.
Yeah.
So for you, how much was riding on that race?
So I was in the precarious position of knowing that it was likely I wouldn't have a contract if I didn't make the team. I was 28, and I don't even know if that's true, but I had the people who get the most money are the ones who just sign out of college, and by most money I mean like, can you make a living or not doing this? So I knew that was definitely a factor. But I was also used to living with that like lack of stability. So it's just, that was another variable. There's, when you think of like ultimate running, ultimate running championships, you think first of the Olympics. Like that's what, when I was, 15, I would be doing, like runs, like early in the morning, and like an old man who's walking around the neighborhood also early in the morning would like ask if I was going to go to the Olympics, and I'd be like, yeah, I'm going to the Olympics. And like that's the sort of almost abstract goal. But it's not actually like that. Like while when you're a teenager and you're on the line for the conference championships, it's the biggest thing in the world. And then when you're on the line for the state championship, that's also the biggest thing in the world. And then when you're, a few years later on the line for the NCAA championships, that's the biggest thing in the world. So like there's this idea of the Olympics as being like an ultimate goal, but it didn't really feel bigger than any other race that I'd run to me. Like I knew intellectually that there were more people watching, and there were these billboards, and there's pressure mounting, and that definitely led to like anxiety, just like a higher hum of anxiety throughout the days and months leading up to the Olympics. I don't know if it's always the phrase, but that year they had on all the billboards, the U.S. track and field team, the world's hardest team to make. I'd be like, Jesus, like why?
No pressure.
Tell me that every day, yeah. But if you're running at that level, you've figured out how to compartmentalize that kind of pressure, and it didn't feel like that much more was riding on it, even though it probably was. What was riding on it? If I had made the team, it seems like reasonable to say like I would have had 4 more years where it would have been the right thing to stay pro. But so at the time I was married to Ian Dobson, and he had made the Olympic team 4 years before. And in 2012, he was like kind of done and just like finishing it out. And being supportive to me. We were on the same rhythm, and he still made the finals. He's still like, a top runner, but he had kind of decided it was time to end. I don't know. That's to say, I had kind of a close-up look at what making the Olympic team really meant. And it's not some like golden accomplishment. If I had made the Olympic team right now, I would be able to like summarize my past more easily and briefly. Julia Olympian is like is better to say. Like, Julia Lucas, like Olympic team alternate, but like very near miss. I don't know how do you, but it's not. It's not as. Don't get me wrong. I like wish I'm not like doing sour grapes. Like I don't even want to make it, but it's not. It doesn't make a life, Oh God, what's the in Cool Runnings, when he says like if you're not enough without the the medal, you won't.
Yes.
It's kind of like that. It really is like I can't say how things would have been different if I had made the team. Kim Connolly made the team and then went on, like that sort of was the beginning of like a major upswing in her career, and momentum and confidence is so powerful always, just in every path. And so I don't know who's to say, but looking back, I don't think like that devastation changed everything. Like that's just not true. It was like one point in a series that was kind of a disillusionment with running at a top level. But it came along in like tiny dribs and drabs, and it was just like a very visible example of kind of what was happening with me internally.
I mean, I'm just happy you worked a Cool Runnings reference into this.
Yeah. It's the deepest wisdom,
Oh my gosh, that movie like defined so much of my childhood, though. I watched it every day. Holy cow! Yeah, who didn't sit in their bathtub pretending it was a bobsled, right?
It's so true. Yeah,
so good. Well, I mean, I respect that reflection so much. And I mean, you're always so wise and insightful. You're also so gracious. And I watched it then, and I watched it more recently, the post-race interview that you did after that race. I would have been like, I am absolutely not doing a post-race interview. I'm going and I'm eating French fries by myself. Like, I need a minute.
Hmm.
As a professional athlete, you don't really have that choice. You're put right into the mix zone and it's, hey, here's a microphone, answer these questions. What's that like?
So I do have to be, I'm glad that someone asked me essentially this question, like very close to like a few weeks afterwards. I don't remember doing the interview, like it was so much. And, like I remember crossing the line, looking up at the scoreboard, all of us waiting to see, um, it's a photo finish to see who crossed the line first, and then also to see if she had made the standard. I don't know how much it's not just the first three who go, it's the first three who have the Olympic trials standard. Kim didn't have it before the race, got it during the race, but it was by less than a second. So like there was so much in the like 5 seconds after I crossed the finish line, so much was happening. And anyway, so I remember looking up at the board. I remember Lauren Fleshman. I remember sitting down on the track and looking at my knees. And then I remember Lauren Fleshman coming by and touching me on the shoulder and saying tough race. And then I remember in the behind the stadium, there's a sort of maze that the athletes go through to get to the various like places they need to be. And one of them is and I remember being on the way to drug testing, and my parents had made it out of their stands. They were the like far west stands, and found me, and they both hugged me. My mom hugged me, and then my dad wrapped us both up. And I remember that. And between those two things, that interview happened. I've watched it since. I actually watched it on a big screen. I was giving a talk that summer later at a high school camp. They said like, no, you don't have to come anymore. And I was like, I can do it. And before they brought me up to the stage, they were like, here's the race. And we watched the race together. I saw the race for the first time. and then we watched the interview, and I saw the interview. It was like,
wait, did you know that they were going to play it?
They were very gracious. They weren't,
okay.
They either I knew, or they didn't understand, or I didn't understand. I don't remember. I wasn't sitting there devastated. It was just like a major processing moment. Like, oh, that really happened. And while you're watching the race, it really looks like I'm going to make it. And so I was watching the race, which at some point they put into like slow-mo and replay or whatever. I'm watching the race and I'm like, maybe I'll make it this time, like it's so disembodied, like what you see on a screen and how you're thinking of yourself running can be so separate. And so all that's to say, I don't remember. I don't remember the interview, but I did watch it afterwards. And yeah, I really believe, I know like people, it's very popular with the running audience to be like, shut up and let your legs do the talking, or like that, like excuses are off-putting. And not that I was making excuses, but so I love running because of the storylines. And that storyline can be really short. Like if I see someone running by me now in the park and they are just working so hard, and I can see on their face that they're talking themselves through something and they don't want to do it, but they are going to, and they like, that's a storyline, the overcoming moment of sort of being able to like mind read, because I have felt just like they're feeling. So honor, like we all tell ourselves stories about what we're doing out there, why it matters, or why, like how our specific talents are being applied to the run, or how we wish we were different and how that's holding us back, or what, like we're talking ourselves through sort of how our personalities and selves are like superimposed on our runs and our races. And it just didn't, like, to skip the interview, which people do, to skip the interview would have been kind of like dishonoring the rest of my story, or like that, like how important the last year had been to me, watching myself just like fail at professional running and then climb back out and kind of inspire myself every day, and all the people who had invested so much in me, and the amount of free treatment, free, very expensive, otherwise treatment that I was given, and just people who believed in me and were kind to me, and to just like disappear then, rather than like kind of, standing and saying, this is what I got, I just wouldn't have been proud of myself.
Well, that's a pretty classy move. I don't know. Who knows what any of us would have done in that same scenario. But like I said, I'm sticking with French fries in the hotel room and I'm skipping that media zone. Or no, what would be more realistic is I'd be like, no, I'm fine. I can do it. They'd ask one question. I just burst into tears, but that's because I'm a crier and I have no level of composure. So, we all have our things, but,
I do want to, I think every once in a while I'll see an interview where someone will break down. And I think that's so powerful, like we're out there because we really care about this. And it's like, it's so uncool to care and to be like really totally have your like heart on full display is just really powerful outside of everywhere, so I think that would be a great way to finish up your
sobbing.
Yeah.
I'd be fine with it. Hey, I'm vulnerable. I'll embrace that word. Let's take a quick break to hear from our sponsor, Gatorade Endurance. If there's one thing we've all learned over the past year, it's that there's only so much we can control in this world, right? And what's the number one thing that you can control? You. Your goals, your motivations, your struggles, your running, however that fits into your life right now. And let's be honest, we all want the best for ourselves, right? I mean, I hope so. I hope you do. I think that's a good thing, to expect personalized options for every aspect of your active lifestyle, which needs to include your fueling options. That is always my best advice when people ask, and they always ask, about fueling on the run, about what to do and where to start. It comes down to what works for you. Personalization is power, people. And that is where Gatorade Endurance comes in. This brand, I'll tell you, they want to do everything they can to meet your needs and demands, and they continue to expand their product line and its availability in order to make you happy. I love when people want to make me happy. What's better than that? However you prefer to take in nutrition and electrolytes before, during, and after your run, Gatorade Endurance has you covered. There's the Endurance Formula Hydration, energy gels, chews, Gatorlights, truly something for everyone. I'm a chew girl myself. It feels like I get to eat a Starburst on the run. Oh, and a bit of exciting news on the Gatorade Endurance front. You can now find Gatorade Endurance products at more than 400 Dick's Sporting Goods locations across the country. You're probably already used to getting them online at GatoradeEndurance.com, on Amazon, or at your favorite run specialty store. But now you can find all of this, including single-serve packets, at Dick's. Every athlete has a unique training journey. Every athlete has unique fueling needs. And Gatorade Endurance knows that when you have the right fuel for your body, you're set up for success. Personalization is power. So find what works for you and get started by going to GatoradeEndurance.com and using code ONTHERUN20 for 20% off your next order. That's GatoradeEndurance.com using code ONTHERUN20 for 20% off. All right, let's get back to Julia Lucas. Did you have role models in that way in so much of what you've described, whether it's the composure after the race or the willingness to be vulnerable and share your true self? Are there people you have looked to in your life who are also doing that, whether it's your parents or other professional runners or friends? Or is that all you? Is that all inherent?
So, no, it's never, to say it's all me, like no one can answer that. Say that truthfully. We're all a communal community.
No outside influence.
I'm an island. No, I'm someone who's always kept their role models pretty close. And I still, I feel, most inspired by people just close to me. So even when I grew up in the time of watching Susie for Hamilton and Dina Castor win races, it was like I knew of them and I knew they're amazing, but the true inspiration in my life was like the seniors on my high school team. Lauren Yoder and Stephanie Bohr when I was in high school, and then on my college team, Lucy and Claudine Hull and Renee Gunning, and like the people close to me. It's so when you're like just shoulder to shoulder and locking strides with someone every day, and they're doing the same things as you, and then you see them like hurting and then overcome, or like in a bad place, or getting like mistreated by someone else in their lives, and then like being beaten down and then coming back. Like that's kind of the stuff that's always that's always, even when I was a kid, kind of gotten me the like the close in inspirations in my life. So my dad is an artist, and I think that like storytelling impulse, and thinking about running as equal parts sport and art, which always just came like very like obviously and naturally to me. I think that's where that comes from. My college coach, Lori Hennes, was also a near miss for the Olympics, so I modeled my whole career after her. That's a joke, but
yeah. I was like, it worked.
It did it. Yeah, it's hard to focus on one person, because I just feel like, I mean, even now, just like you said you were a crier. When I was a runner, when I was a full-time runner, I wasn't a crier. I was a total compartmentalizer. I cried 2 times in my 16 years of like, focused elite running. And then now that I've retired, I cry all the time. I cry.
Hell yeah. Welcome to the good side.
Yeah, just so, because there's not really a need to compartmentalize. Like so much of being an athlete is convincing yourself of like things that like aren't true, aren't yet true, or that you're in less pain than you are, or that whatever, it's like a chronic fake it until you make it. And I don't really do that anymore. And so, yeah, now I'm like usually good things, usually like I'm just touched because like, some interaction. And so it's just special and joyous. And I'm a member of Brooklyn Track Club, and every single Tuesday to watch every runner of athlete, every level of athlete, just like go through something, like they're there and they don't think they could do it, and they do, and then they rejoice, and they like understand that they're more powerful than they thought they were. Like that's kind of where my like mojo has always come from.
Oh, I love that. Shout out to Brooklyn Track Club.
Yeah.
We love Brooklyn Track Club. Leanne, what's up? How would you say, looking back on the 2012 trials, how would you say that race defined you personally and defined your career?
Okay, so the morning of that race, I went to breakfast with my old college coach, Lori Hennes, whose team right now, North Carolina State, is so fast. I was just, I was like, geez, what are you guys doing now? But I went out to breakfast with her, and I was talking about what I like wanted from the race. Like it was the race where more people were watching than ever, and I didn't feel more pressure, but I just felt more excitement. Like I wanted it to be like representational sort of how I saw myself as an athlete. That's probably putting too fine a point on it. I wanted to be like excited about the race. I wanted to like do something like awesome and beautiful and memorable and gutsy, and I just wanted it to be like it. And she was like, Julia, don't wait till Olympics number 2. Like just get it done. Be smart. And that was truly a race where like the thing to do was be smart, because I had all the like the cards were in my favor. I had the fastest 1500 time of any of the legitimate competitor, of the people who were like likely going to make the team, on the line in a race, anybody could win, right? That's the thing. So I hate to hear myself say legitimate competitor. Of the favorites, I had the fastest 15, and then I had the fastest 5, and there were only so many of us who had the Olympic standard. And so the thing to do would be to like kind of creep to the back of the pack, wait for people to fall off, and then in the last, lap or so, make a stealthy move, get to the front, and then make the team, not really caring if I was first, second, or third. And even not caring if I could be 6th, and if the race was run slow enough, people wouldn't get the standard and I could still make it. And I was like, that is bullshit. That is not the way I want to make the team. I want it to be like something to remember. I want it to be beautiful. And the night before in the 10K, it had been a race where people kind of watching each other, and I was in the stands and people kind of lost interest in it. And it turns out like something like 1st, 4th, and 7th went to the Olympics. And it was just, those athletes were being smart, and all the people who went deserved to go, and they were playing by the rules, and they were like being the athletes they were like meant to and paid to and wanted to be. So it's not like I wanted it to be. I wanted to like just set it all on fire, and that's to my own demise. I did. I with 1,200 to go, with a mile to go, I was just frustrated because I felt like I wasn't excited by our race. I wanted us to be brave and pushing each other and like be trying to break each other and just running the race that I wanted to watch. I wanted to be a part of that. And so I did the very like not smart thing of, with 3 laps to go, just blowing it open. And, the crowd erupts and somebody tries to go with me and they can't. And I feel like I'm flying and I can only hear like my breath in my head because it's so loud. I can't hear my own footsteps. I don't even know how far ahead I am until I look up at the Jumbotron and they're so far back, and that just gives me more gas. And so I'm going, and it's magic, like the what makes people fall in love with the sport. Like they get involved, it's for health or it's for camaraderie or whatever, but then you like get close to this magic and you don't even know how to talk about it with people who don't run, but it just feels like a chance to like rub up against something like superhuman. and I did that. And like what happened was I went like too hard, too hot, and just totally blew up at the end. And really like crawled the last 100 meters took a long, long time. And people came from way back to catch me. Kim Connolly and Abby Giagostino. She also could have caught me at the end if with another footstep. They like played the last like 5 seconds in slow motion over and over again in the telecast. And okay, so all of that is to say, like I did the big dramatic thing. Like it was a failure, and it was not like, it did not like reap the reward, which would have been career point and financial, and it would have like paid back kind of the people who had invested in me. Like looking back, like looking at priorities, like why did I get involved in the first place? Like what did running really mean to me? And it was about just making kind of beautiful things happen. And I think that the gaping sadness and disappointment that I know that like not just I felt, not just people I knew felt, did something. It's a sad story for me, for the people who wanted me in. But I guess I'm kind of proud if like someone looking back on my career says I was like kind of stupid and exciting, I can live with that.
I don't think stupid and exciting is bad. I think, obviously there's a million and one lessons that we could all take from this story. And one of them is, man, you got to take some risks sometime and see what happens. If you don't, you're never going to know.
Yeah. Blow it up. Yeah. Just like so much of like now when I'm like thinking more in the arts, like so many of the things that end up just lighting my heart on fire are just like, what would happen? What if we tried this crazy thing? And then
yes.
What comes out of it? Throw it in the air. This is too safe. It's boring. like shred it, throw it in the air. It's confetti.
Shred it. Oh my God, I love that so much. Uh, so you wrote that beautiful piece for Free Play magazine, which I'll link to in the show notes so that everyone can read it. And you wrote, that race did not end my career, but it did change my trajectory, and momentum is powerful. Where did that momentum take you?
So after that, when I was sort of like retelling my story to myself and retelling it to high schoolers, I in the summers after competition, I would go to high school camps that would have me, and so talking about like where I was given the opportunity to talk real time and break down like what happens next, and I wanted my story to be like, bootstraps, picks herself up, and then makes the next Olympic team. And like I wanted to want that, but if I had hung on and I had trained for 4 more years, I quit at the top of my career. Like that last year I'd PR'd in the 1500. Like I could have kept going, but just I felt like I had like completed the story. If I had hung on and made the next Olympic team, it would have been like a smaller and less nuanced, like more typical, I don't know, sports story, and like kind of less true to who I am. I think of myself as like a scrapper and not a winner. Not in a bad way. I've been psychoanalyzed, psychoanalyzed by not psychoanalysts. Said like I have fear of failure and I have a fear, but like